Peacock is doing badly, and I mean like really badly. Just take a look at this article. Peacock finished the June quarter with 24 million subscribers, up from 22 million subscribers at the end of March. That sounds really good. However, there's a catch. The streamer lost $651 million over that same 3 months. Sadly, these losses have become pretty much par for the course. The NBC Universal streaming platform lost $704 million in the prior quarter, $467 million in Q2 of 2022, and the company expects to post peak losses from the streaming to the tune of $3 billion in 2023. And that is an insane amount of money to be hemorrhaging on a streaming service. But it's also pretty indicative of the entire streaming industry as a whole, where essentially everybody, except for a few exceptions, are just hemorrhaging money. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But essentially with Peacock, there was one main appeal. The fact that they had The Office. They purchased the exclusive rights to The Office for God knows how much money, threw it on Peacock, and then ran this very specific ad. You can now stream The Office on Peacock for free, but just for 1 week. Peacock is unlocking every episode of The Office along with a bevy of special features for 1 week only. With the idea being you want to watch your favorite show, The Office, which was on Netflix, and now that we pulled it over to Peacock, we need something else to persuade people to follow it over to Peacock, because probably anyone who's interested in The Office has already seen every episode, so we need new stuff over here. And to that end, they started releasing things like extra behind the scenes, extra features, extra bloopers, cast interviews, and stuff like that. Just a bunch of extra content surrounding The Office, because the core material of The Office, the sitcom and what it is not going to change. So they have to bring people who love The Office over to Peacock with a promise of a bunch of new things that they have never seen before. And the question is, did this actually work? And I want you to tell me. This is the Google Trends data for The Office, the American sitcom, over the past 5 years. As you can see, it was pretty steady with a little bit of some ups and downs, which is kind of what you see with any sitcom, especially one that is as old as The Office is. And then there's this huge spike here in December of 2020. And that's because that's when Netflix was going to lose the rights to The Office. Everyone was giving it one last hurrah, one last watch through before the rights exclusively went over to Peacock. And then look at the interest right after that. Within a couple of months, the interest dropped to about half of where it was, and it no longer has those big spikes anymore because there's so few people that actually use Peacock. And now, over the past year or so, this year, 8 months, it's just been slowly dropping off the edge. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, streaming services are losing money for a lot of reasons, but the three big ones are: one, there are too many options. I mean, just take a look at all of these freaking options. I mean, some of these I recognize: Peacock, Paramount, Hulu, although who uses Paramount? Let's be honest here. But then you scroll down, and there's so many of these, like Epix, ET Live, Fandango, Fubo TV, Vault, Lifetime, Filio TV, Prinde TV, Showtime, Shudder. Shudder, I've actually heard of. That's a pretty good one, so it gets a pass. But what are all of these streaming services? I haven't heard of half of these. And not only have I not heard of half of these, but they're frankly just becoming too expensive. If you look at the prices of streaming services, essentially every one of them have increased their prices pretty significantly over the last few years. But in addition to raising prices, the third main reason that streaming services are failing is because there's just not enough good shows. If I want to watch something like, say, one of my favorite shows of all time, Teen Wolf, well, then first of all, I have to figure out, where is Teen Wolf streaming? Okay, it's on Paramount Plus, which I can't believe I would have to open a Paramount Plus account in order to watch Teen Wolf, but that's besides the point. So what I would do is I would go to ParamountPlus.com or whatever the website is. I would sign up, preferably for a free trial, but maybe I have to pay for the 1 month in order to do it. I watch the show, and then I cancel my subscription right afterwards. And that, frankly, is a very complicated process to go through every time you want to watch a show, especially since a lot of these shows are being split up between different services. So I might want to watch Squid Game that's on Netflix, but then maybe I want to watch House of the Dragon, so then I have to cancel my Netflix subscription and I have to get a Max subscription. And then I want to watch Teen Wolf right after that, so then I have to cancel my Max subscription and I have to jump over to Paramount Plus in order to be able to watch Teen Wolf. And the process, it's simply too much. When everything was on Netflix, it was easy. I opened Netflix and I watched the show. Two very easy steps that essentially anyone can follow. But now it's becoming very complicated, and it's a lot of effort in order to be able to watch a TV show. And the reason it's so complicated is for one very important thing: exclusivity. And I Don't know why I actually chose this font. It's really hard to read, but this says, as you can see here, it says exclusivity. Essentially, every show you want to watch is only available on one platform. If you want to watch Squid Game, it's only available on Netflix. If you want to watch House of the Dragon, it's only available on Max. Even with companies that don't own specifically their show, if you want to watch Flash, it's on CBS and stuff like that. Every show is pretty much almost always available on just one of 1,000 streaming services that are available. And there's a general understanding that this is bad for the consumer because they either have to sign up to a bunch of different platforms or they have to platform hop, but it's good for the companies because they get exclusive rights to their show and then people have to come over and give them money directly for it. But as we can see, it's not particularly good for the companies either. If we look over at these numbers right here, in 2023, the first quarter, Disney owned Disney Plus, ESPN, yada, 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 all of those bundles lost $1.5 billion. The Comcast owned Peacock lost $2.5 billion in 2022 and is expected to lose $3 billion. Paramount streaming service, along with Pluto TV, Paramount Plus, lost $511 million and then lost even more than that earlier. This is not working for companies. The belief that it's good for companies because people have to pay them for it directly is obviously not panning out just because of how expensive it is to run a streaming service. And it's bad for consumers too because they either have to have a bunch of subscriptions to a bunch of different platforms or they have to platform hop, which is just annoying to have to do all the time. So if everyone's losing in this new system where everything is just segmented off by whoever owns the specific rights to that form of media, why do we continue to do it? And to understand this, let's do a little bit. We have to zoom out a little bit and we get to talk about Axe body spray. Now, if I want to purchase Axe body spray, and I will not hear a bad thing about Axe body spray, it is the only brand that I have used legitimately my entire life, and I do not smell like a middle school locker room. I smell wonderful. But if I want to purchase Axe body spray, I can purchase it from Walmart. This is in store in Washington, D.C. I don't actually live there, but I can purchase it from Walmart. Or I can jump over to Kroger and I can purchase the exact same product at Kroger. There is no difference between the two of them. They are two independent companies that are competing with each other for my dollars, selling the exact same thing. And so to this end, they have to improve everything around this product. They cannot improve Axe body spray. That's the job of someone else, the scientists over at Axe. But what they can do is they can improve everything around the Axe body spray and the experience of them and their stores and what they provide to the customer. And that's why we get stores that we really like. Lots of people enjoy going to Walmart or enjoy going to Kroger or enjoy going to Target per se. And that's because these companies know that they're competing on the exact same item. So they have to do things like offer better rewards, offer better customer support, offer better pricing or bulk deals. But then for some reason, we decided that for streaming movies and TV shows almost specifically, we're just going to change that. Let's look at a different example. If I want to stream Taylor Swift's Red version, which is absolutely wonderful, I can stream it here on Spotify. I can stream it over here on SoundCloud. I can stream it on Apple Music. There's a general understanding that when something is released by a musical artist, it's available on every streaming service at once. No matter what you use, you get it. And as a result of that, Spotify, Apple, Pandora Radio, if they still exist, they spend a lot of time trying to make everything around that song and as the product experience of Spotify as a whole much, much better. And that's why you get things like the Spotify app, which are really good apps, or the Apple Music app, which is very intuitive. It's got a nice design. It's very pretty. And that's because they're all competing with the same item. If you want a song to be played, you can go almost anywhere you want. So then they have to compete on the other stuff. How pretty is the app? How many other features does the app have? What's maybe the quality of the streaming of the song? Since the song itself is identical, they have to go out of their ways to create better experiences in other ways. And this is also not even a foreign concept with movies. For example, if I want to watch Barbie in Washington, D.C., look at all of the different theaters that I can go to in order to watch it. It's not exclusive to AMC or to Regal or to Landmark or some other gigantic theater company. When a movie is released, it's available everywhere. Lots of competing theater or theater-owning companies are able to all show the same movie. And as a result of that, all the things around this identical movie need to get better. Maybe the concessions are better or better priced. Maybe the atmosphere is nicer, or it's cleaner inside, or the seats are heated or reclined, or any number of other things that they're trying to adjust around this product in order to get a good experience. And as a result of that, most movie theaters are pretty nice, fun places to be. They tend to have good screens, good speakers, soft chairs, etc. And that's because they're all showing the same movie. So they have to make the theater experience appealing into other things around that movie. But then for some reason, we decided that with movies and TV shows, it should be different somehow, so that after lots of different companies show the movie, then After that, only one company is allowed to show it now. And that results in things like this. With this terrible interface, it looks like a junior designer just vomited all over the screen and just added as many free assets from whatever asset library he was using to this. Like, okay, there's home, search, absolutely makes sense. And then this is, I assume, maybe movies, maybe this is TV shows, sports. Okay, is that the WWE logo? What is plus? Can I add things? Okay, that's also a TV. So is this shows and maybe that's not TV shows? Like, what does this mean? How is it different from that? And then all of these movies down here they're all unrelated. There's no For You. I mean, I guarantee that, first of all, none of these are For You. Second of all, they're all Peacock originals, and there's no way that's a coincidence. Obviously, they're pushing their own stuff. But my general thing that I'm trying to point out is that the interface of streaming services tends to be really bad. But if you want to watch the show, it's not like you have a choice. If I wanted Axe body spray and I could only go to Walmart to get Axe body spray, it doesn't matter how bad Walmart is or how much I hate it or slow checkout or whatever. If I want Axe body spray, I have to go to Walmart. So even if I'm not treated well by the employees or if it's dirty, then that's where I'm going to go to get my Axe body spray. But this is what happens when there's no competition. And I understand that there is some competition between streaming services, but by and large, what people are loyal to or interested in is not so much the streaming service, it's the shows on the service, which absolutely makes sense. But if there's no real competition between the shows that are on the service because one person keeps the show for as long as they possibly can, then it doesn't matter what the streaming service experience is like. It's going to be bad because there's no incentive to make it better. If you want to watch The Office, you have to be on Peacock, even if the Peacock interface absolutely sucks. The second reason I gave that streaming services are doing pretty badly is because prices are going up. In fact, if you take a look at this Axios article, they're going up a lot. You can see Max, which just launched a couple of years ago, has already gone up. Netflix has essentially doubled in price. Hulu's gone up. YouTube Premium's gone up. Peacock's gone up. Paramount's gone up. Disney Plus has gone up. Apple TV's gone up. Everything's gone up except, interestingly, really all of these music streaming services, which have all gone up by $1, and they're all identical because they know they're competing on the same product. So it's the things within the app that they're trying to yada, 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 all the things I said earlier. Now, the first thing you might think is that $15.99 for Max or $15.49 or $15 for Hulu, that's a lot of money. And that's terrible for these companies. They're pricing people out. Why would they do that? If you keep raising or doubling your prices like Netflix has done, then there are people that are going to be unable to afford the service. And that is partially true, but it's also very intentional that they're raising the prices so much and pricing people out of the lowest tier. And that's because by doing that, the customers that stick around are actually worth more. And let me explain exactly what I mean by this. If you're one of Netflix's subscribers who pays $6.99 per month to watch via its basic with ads tier, the streamer owes you thanks. You're worth more than the ad-free standard customers who pay $15.49 per month. And that's because Netflix released their earnings on their public calls, and it turns out that the people that are paying a little bit of money but also watching ads are actually worth more per user than people who are watching without ads. Netflix is just now learning what cable companies have known for decades, that if you pay a small amount but then are also shown ads, then you are worth so much more than if you paid a slightly larger amount but aren't shown any ads. And that's because the ad industry is absolutely gigantic. I professionally run ads for my living. They are not cheap to run. So the objective is to slowly make these streaming services so expensive that people are priced out of the ad-free tiers and are forced to jump to a lower cost and also be shown ads. And I realize this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but if you think about it, a company's objective is to make money. The ultimate objective is to make as much money as possible with as little cost as possible. And so if they're making more money by making people purchase slightly smaller subscription tiers but also be shown advertisements, then that's what they're incentivized to do. So they just keep raising those prices. And also once one company is successful in doing this, like it looks like Netflix is, then the other companies will eventually start to follow. Just look at something like the headphone jack. One of the big reasons that the headphone jack was taken out was because it's a lot cheaper to manufacture phones with fewer features. And the headphone jack costs money to manufacture. And so once you leave it out, that's money saved during the manufacturing process. Once Apple did it, all the other companies looked at Apple and said, oh, well, that huge conglomerate of a company did it, so we can also do it. So we can also save money. And that becomes the industry norm, even though by and large, people were pretty upset about the headphone jack missing. I am still bitter about it. But when one leading company gives permission, all the other companies can follow. So once Netflix starts showing how much money they're making off of this ad plus subscription tier, all of the other companies are going to look at that and say, oh, well, they're making a lot of money off of that. We should also do that. Now, the last reason I gave that streaming services are struggling is because there just aren't a lot of good shows right now. In fact, if you had to guess, how many Netflix originals do you think Netflix released in 2022? up to 100, 200, maybe up to 300. That's about what my guess would have been before I checked. It is 891 Netflix originals were released in 2022. Almost where are these shows? I could name like 5 maybe if I tried really hard. 10 if I just gave it my all and a gun was pointed at my head. Where are these other 1,000 original shows that Netflix is releasing? So when Netflix is just cranking out terrible show after terrible show, of course people are just going to watch the 1 or 2 gems that come out and then platform hop over to the next service to try and find whatever good show that they have. So all of these issues and streaming service problems that consumers and also companies are having to deal with is adding up to the streaming companies losing hundreds of billions of dollars over the long term. In fact, the only large media conglomerate that's doing a really good job with any of this is Sony, which is not a sentence I ever thought I'd say. But if you look at this, there's a 5-year contract that Sony and Netflix signed together where all of Sony's IPs, after they're released in theaters, they get their theatrical run, they immediately go over to Netflix exclusively for at least the next 5 years. The deal is reportedly set to last 5 years, and the New York Times reports that Netflix will pay $1 billion to Sony over 4 years. And this $1 billion, that's essentially pure profit for Sony because they released the movies in theaters, and so they got all the money that companies do when it's released in theaters. And then on top of that, they're being paid $1 billion for their whole catalog to be pushed over to Netflix. It's not causing them, it's not costing them tens of billions of dollars as they're trying to set up and run a streaming service or build an entire new company around it. Sony's not interested in that, and it's absolutely the right call. In fact, Sony only has 1 streaming service under its belt, and you would never in a million years guess which streaming service Sony owns. It is the faith equivalent of Netflix, PureFlix, which is Christian Netflix, faith and family streaming. Discover your home for faith and family exclusive movies and TV shows. And frankly, I just think that is so funny. Sony acquired this company back in 2022 for an undisclosed amount of money. And I have no other words for it. I just think it's hilarious that Sony owns a Christian-based media streaming service, and that is it. That is the only streaming service they own. So thank you so much for joining me on this little journey, and subscribe on your way out.